What's up, my people? I'm glad to have y'all back today. We're going to go over UFC Freedom 250, where for the main event, we'll have Ilya Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. And for the co-main event, we have Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane. Now here, we're going to go over the full card predictions and some betting breakdowns. I'll give you guys some spots that I like. I'm excited for all 7 fights on this card, so let's go ahead and get right into it. Before we do, just make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into the fights. All right, first up, we have Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. Diego Lopez, very dangerous in the pocket, very aggressive fighter. He's very dangerous on the ground as well. I would say in this fight, he does have the grappling advantage for sure. So if it gets there, it's definitely going to be in his advantage. In this fight, Diego Lopez will have the height and the reach disadvantage, as Steve Garcia is going to be the taller and more lengthier fighter. Diego Lopez is the younger fighter with more experience, and I think that we can all agree that Diego Lopez has faced way more tougher competition than Steve Garcia. Now for Garcia, lengthy, powerful striker, very powerful. Does have that one punch knockout, so if he does land a shot flush on you, he can definitely hurt you. Now, when Steve Garcia came into the UFC, he actually lost 2 of his first 3 bouts. He lost his debut by decision to Luis Pena, got a knockout, and then after that fought Mahashate, where he got finished in the first round. Now, after that first round finish, Steve Garcia made a drastic change in his career to where now he's on a 7-fight win streak, and he only has 1 of those fights going to decision, which was against Calvin Kattar. So Diego Lopez definitely has fought the tougher competition, but Steve Garcia is definitely on a better run right now. For this fight, I'm going with Diego Lopez. I think that he's the better all-around fighter. Steve Garcia just has to keep range, for this fight and pick him apart from the outside, which is definitely a possibility. I actually think that Steve Garcia's path to victory here is going to be by decision, to where for Diego Lopez, I could see him possibly getting a knockout, a submission, or even winning by decision. So just from my point of view, I do go with the side of Diego Lopez because I feel like here he is going to be the all-around better fighter. If Steve Garcia is able to keep it from the outside and just pick him apart for 3 rounds, he definitely could win that way. But I don't see Steve Garcia being able to knock Diego Lopez out the same way he wasn't able to knock out Calvin Kattar, because he's just a durable fighter. Then if it gets down to the ground, Diego Lopez can threaten some submissions, and he's very top-heavy and very sticky. So overall, I do like Diego Lopez to win this fight. I do like Steve Garcia's momentum currently, but it's just not against competition like Diego Lopez. And Diego Lopez has been in there with the champion twice, has been in there and destroyed John Silva to where he broke him down in that fight. Was able to beat Brian Ortega, even when it got down to the ground, was able to stay there with him. And Brian Ortega at that time still had a very dangerous ground game and was still game. Dan Ige, short notice bout there. And I just feel like overall Diego Lopez is the younger fighter who has the all-around better skills. And although Steve Garcia is on a run, I feel like this is just a step up in competition for him. And I don't feel like he's ready to beat a guy like Diego Lopez. Currently right now, Diego Lopez is the -170, with Steve Garcia being a +140. I do see love starting to come in on Steve Garcia. There definitely is value in him as an underdog here in this fight. Of course, Steve Garcia is on a run, and he's currently at plus money. But that kind of reminds me back to the Miguel Costa versus Arnold Allen fight, where there was value on Miguel Costa, but Arnold Allen ended up being on a different level just because he's faced way better competition. And it's kind of like the same thing here. I feel like all around Diego Lopez is the better fighter. Even though Steve Garcia is riding the momentum, it just doesn't equal the same skills as a guy like Diego Lopez. So give me Diego Lopez. I like him here as the favorite. I'm going to take a look at some props here throughout the week, but we'll go ahead and move on to the next fight. Let's talk about this next fight. It's Bo Nickel versus Kyle Daukaus. Now for Bo Nickel, here, of course, he's going to have the wrestling advantage. He has recently picked up on his striking, picking up some good striking recently, showing some KO power his last fight, getting the finish after getting finished by RDR. So he has showed that he could bounce back from adversity, because from that fight, everybody was picking him. The odds were around the same for this fight, and RDR ended up finishing him, just pushing the pressure and getting a knee to the body to where he crumbled, and he ended up quitting that fight. But all around, a pretty decent fighter. A lot of people say he has a bright future. I'm just not really too much of a fan of Bo Nickel, but I do respect his game. Now, we do have Kyle Daukaus here. This is a guy that back then in 2020 makes his debut versus Brandon Allen, which of course, just fought last week and is a very high level fighter at this level. Beats Dustin Stolfus by decision. Next up has a fight against Phil Hawes, loses that fight to decision. Then, beats Jamie Pickett by first round. Then he goes against Roma Delitse and Eric Saunders to where back-to-back times he gets knocked out. So, back in 2022, he had 2 back-to-back knockout losses. Since then, he got cut from the UFC. 2023 comes back and then fights his way back to the UFC. And now, back in August 2025, he made his recent return to the UFC to where he finished Michel Pereira and then he finished GM3. But since this guy left the UFC and has returned, he has not lost one fight. He currently is on a 6-fight win streak, showing his KO power and also his submission skills to where, he has a pretty good dars. Overall, in Kyle Dawkins' career, though, he's been a submission ace. He has 12 out of his 17 wins by submission. But he's shown to have some decent boxing and some power in his hands recently because, he got a nasty knockout to Michel Pereira in the first round, and he did him pretty grits there. Now, for this fight, I actually think this is a very winnable bout for Kyle Dawkins. Bo Nickel will have, of course, the wrestling advantage, but Kyle Dawkins does have the striking advantage here. I feel like overall, he's the better striker here. He could land a shot on Bo Nickel and possibly get him out of here. Of course, Bo Nickel does have a path to victory here, and that's going to be utilizing the wrestling. But in his last 3 fights, he's honestly shown that he's mainly just focusing on being a striker when it comes down to being in the cage. Now, of course, Kyle Dawkins knows that he has to train the defensive wrestling. I feel like as long as Kyle Dawkins is able to keep it off of the ground and keep it on the feet. Now, of course, if Bo Nickel is able to get him down to the ground and keep him there and keep control time and just stay on top of him and lay on top of him, he definitely can win a decision here. I just saw it in the beginning of his career, and it kind of is fading away throughout his career. He's kind of losing what he initially came into the UFC with. I don't think he's the most dangerous fighter or the most fit fighter or somebody who is a very dangerous fighter. I wouldn't really classify Bo Nickel as that. He's only faced the very bottom of this division. And like I said, of course, Bo Nickel can showcase his wrestling here, but I just don't rely on him as that much to utilize his wrestling. I think if it does get there, Kyle Dawkins can display some good takedown defense as well. Kyle Dawkins is coming into this fight with way more experience, of course, than Bo Nickel. He has been in there with a better competition than Bo Nickel. And overall, I just don't see any value in Bo Nickel here at a -300. So in this spot, give me Kyle Dawkins at +270. In this fight, I feel like that's where the value lies. Just to me, Kyle Dawkins isn't like a Paul Craig, Cody Brundage, a Val Woodburn. He also disposed of Jamie Pickett as well. So he's not like any of these fighters that Bo Nickel has faced and defeated in the UFC. He's a better all-around fighter than anybody that Bo Nickel has ever defeated. And that just makes me like the plus money next to Kyle Dawkins way more. Throughout the week, we'll look at more tape and we'll also look through this fight more. And maybe my decision changes. But for now, everything's leading me towards the side of Kyle Dawkins. So I'll go ahead and pick them for this fight. For this next fight, we have a pretty straightforward fight. We have one guy in Mauricio Rufy who is a precise striker, very good at bouncing in and out on the range. Here in this fight, we'll have the height and reach advantage. Is currently only 29 years old, and he's going against Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler is a wrestler who has turned into an aggressive striker. Right now, he is 40 years old, and also he's only 5'8" with a 71.5-inch reach. As you can see here, of course, Michael Chandler does have the veteran experience and has fought, the way tougher competition than Mauricio Rufy. But this guy is just all about action. He doesn't really have any type of consideration for his damn brain. And just look at him. He's a guy that just wants to go in there, just brawl it out, get it done, get a bonus. He's all for the show. Now, that is a very exciting style for the fans. The fans love when a guy presses forward and puts himself into danger to where a dangerous guy like Mauricio Rufy can engage. So we're all going to know here, and we all know that Michael Chandler does not have any type of fear for anything coming from Mauricio Rufy. But when Rufy lands that shot on Michael Chandler is going to go to sleep. Out of Michael Chandler's 10 losses, he has been knocked out 5 times. At the age of 40, I'm just afraid that the chin is completely gone. And here, this is a bad stylistic matchup for him. Michael Chandler asked for Conor McGregor, and he's getting the Temu version of Conor McGregor, the Brazilian version, which honestly I think is a more lengthy, precise striker currently than a McGregor that's been off for 5 years. So yeah, Michael Chandler was begging for Conor McGregor. He wanted Conor McGregor. So they went and they found him a Brazilian who wants to be Conor McGregor, who is currently on a Conor McGregor power type run. Of course, at the age of 29, he has more speed and more precision than a current Conor McGregor. So yeah, they gave him what he wanted, but they gave him an even younger, hungrier, currently stronger fighter. So Michael Chandler got exactly what he wanted here in this fight. He wanted this type of matchup. My thing is, if you want this type of matchup, utilize your wrestling. Don't go out there and try to bang with this guy. But the thing about Michael Chandler's wrestling is that he's not really good at sustaining or keeping the top control. And I feel like Rufy, even if he does get taken down, he'll be able to get back up and still strike with Chandler. I don't remember the last time we see Michael Chandler really utilize his wrestling. I don't think that he becomes a better wrestler or starts utilizing it at the age of 40. I just think when he gets in there, he pretty much like blacks out and he says, fuck it, whatever happens, happens. And he bites down on the mouth guard. But I just don't think that he has what it takes to beat a guy like Mauricio Rufy here in this fight. So, of course, in this fight, we're taking Mauricio Rufy, and we're also going to take him by knockout. I don't think that Chandler is going to last 3 rounds with Mauricio Rufy's powerful striking. I feel like he'll get dropped, and eventually Mauricio Rufy will follow up, and Chandler will have to be saved by the refs here in this fight. Either he goes out cold, or Mauricio Rufy just hurts him and he drops, and then he is able to follow up with some dangerous shots. But overall, I do feel pretty confident that Mauricio Rufy does get a knockout here. That's the only thing that confuses me about this card, is that this card is supposed to be an American card, but they set up Michael Chandler against Mauricio Rufy, which is just a terrible matchup for an American here in this fight. So give me the speed, the precision, the youth, the length, everything in this fight to go Rufy's way. And I'm pretty confident he takes this fight pretty easily. Right now, currently, he is a minus 650 and Chandler is a plus 425. Throughout the week, more and more money will come in on Rufy. Of course, at this point, there's not really too much value in the line, but there will be value on some props. So we'll take a look at that throughout the week. And, I'm going to drop a video for you guys on that. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. I'll make sure to drop one bet for every single fight on this card for you guys. Let's go ahead and move on to the next fight, though. Next up, we have Derek Lewis, the OG, against Josh Hockett, the newcomer to the UFC. Now, as we all know, Derek Lewis holds the record for the most knockouts in the UFC. Very powerful striker, has that one-shot KO power, but overall, he's, pretty much a brawler. Now, Josh Hockett came into the UFC pretty hot, has a really good gimmick going on right now, catching a lot of attention to a lot of fans, whether it's good or bad, but he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do in this division to get his name out there. And that's why he earned his spot. And a spot like this in the White House, pretty much, like a short notice right after his last fight. They pretty much booked him just for this fight. And it's honestly because of all the work he's put in so far. But as a fighter, he is a great wrestler. He also has shown some good speed in his hands and also his ability to be very durable. In this fight, of course, he can keep it on the feet with Derek Lewis, but that's where he'll be the most vulnerable. He does have a huge wrestling advantage here in this fight, though. And I mean like a huge one. Now, of course, Chandler also, earlier in this card, Chandler does have a huge wrestling advantage as well. But it's kind of flipped here, Josh Hockett is a younger, hungrier fighter, with Derek Lewis being 41 years old. Even though at this weight class, 41 years old isn't that bad. I mean, Derek Lewis over and over again has talked about his back problems and all the pain he's had. Because, he has fought a very long career in the UFC. But he's getting to that age. He's getting very slow, very vulnerable. He did win to Talison Teixeira, to where I did pick him in that fight and actually bet him at a plus like 350. But, I got super lucky there. That was kind of like a fluke knockout because Talison Teixeira wasn't really out of there. But he did grab the fence, so the ref, had to call the fight because he had to use the fence to get up. So it did count as a knockout there, but it didn't knock him out cold. Talison Teixeira keeps his chin up there, and he has tall man defense. As you can see, a couple weeks ago, he got knocked out very bad for doing the same exact thing. But Josh Hockett, he has head movement. He's very slick when it comes down to being on the feet. But also here, I feel like what he's going to do is he's going to be the smarter fighter here, and he's going to utilize his wrestling. He's a collegiate wrestler against a guy who honestly doesn't have any type of ground game at all. Derek Lewis is only known for his hands. I'm a huge Derek Lewis fan, so I really hope that, maybe he gets a knockout here and just gets an upset, but it's very hard to believe. It's kind of like a fairy tale. I have to put my my fan bias aside and really be realistic and just see that overall Josh Hockett is the better fighter here. Once he gets Derek Lewis down to the ground, Derek Lewis will not be able to get back up. He's going to get tired out. He's going to get frustrated, and Josh Hockett will get the finish here in this fight. I feel like for sure Josh Hockett can get it done in round 1 or round 2. Unless Derek Lewis is taking some type of enhancements, I just don't see his body all of a sudden being able to recover or move fast or be speed twitch as much as he was before, because back then, it was very hard to see where his hand was coming from. It's very hard to kind of predict his hand. Even though everybody trains for it, they'll still get knocked the fuck out. But he's just got slower and older, and just overall hasn't been giving me the best body language when it comes down to being in that cage. One thing I could say about D-Lou is that he has been in there with way tougher competition. That is not a doubt at all when it comes down to this fight. But the youth and the speed and the wrestling here of Josh Hockett is going to give him tremendous issues. Derek Lewis, you go back into his career, though. He did beat Francis Ngannou, Alexander Volkov. But if you go past that, besides the Curtis Blade uppercut in the second round, that was very beautiful. Since then, he really hasn't had a good win. It's been against the low caliber level of the UFC, against guys who basically have like one skill or one trait coming to the fight. As we know, heavyweights aren't the most skilled fighters. But guys, 6 out of his 7 last wins are guys who have been cut from the UFC or no longer there. This is just a bad matchup to take on short notice against a guy who's only 20 years old and who has a high wrestler caliber and also has even competed in the NFL, is overall a better athlete. So 100% give me Josh Hockett here in this fight. He's not going to get knocked out by Derek Lewis. And him himself, he is going to get a finish in the first or second round. Josh Hockett is my most confident pick on the card. I told you guys last week it was Iro Baranowski. The week before that, it was Kyle Sakura. This week is Josh Hockett. Next up, we have the Sugar Show representing America in the featured fight of the night versus Ayman Sahabi, a.k.a. Ariel Horani. Now, on the side of the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley, we have a persistent striker who's very precise, very good at picking people apart from the outside, very dangerous in his hands, has some good knees right up the middle, and is overall just a great fighter. The only weakness, of course, that we've seen exposed is, of course, his ground game, to where he took 2 back-to-back losses to Merab Dvalishvili due to, those circumstances. But if you take 2 losses away from him, of course, to Merab, who was the current champ, and the loss to Chito Vera, to where he hit a nerve and his leg was dead, of course, it's still a loss on his record. So we're going to go ahead and, count it as a loss. But we all know what would have happened in that fight, and we all know what happened the next fight when they had a rematch. Now, his opponent here is Ayman Sahabi. Ayman Sahabi, currently 7 years older at 38 years old, is going to have a height disadvantage as well as a reach disadvantage. He has supposedly a master plan to beat Sean O'Malley here, and I just don't see how the hell he's going to get that done. If we're talking about pure striking here on the feet, with this fight being on the feet, I'm taking Sean O'Malley all day, and I'm putting my life savings on it. And let's just say this fight goes to the ground, right? Let's just say, for example, it goes down to the ground. Keep in mind, Ayman Sahabi's takedown average is less than Sean O'Malley's. His takedown accuracy is only 14%. And in the UFC, he has never attempted a submission. So this is how I see this fight. In order for Ayman Sahabi to win this fight, he has to either hit the same nerve that Chito Vera hit, or he has to become Merab and just be Merab. And he's not fucking Merab. He's 30 years old, a 38-year-old Canadian who is currently on a stride, but against guys who literally do not touch the same grass as Sean O'Malley. Let's talk about it. Draco Rodriguez, Ricky Tercios, Richie Long, Javid Basharat, which, I mean, you guys know how that fight went. Pedro Munez, Jose Aldo, and Marlon Vera. Split decision there. Keep in mind, in the majority of these fights, he got hurt. He was facing way less competition. He went very close with some of these fighters, even though some of these fights he got unanimous decision. A lot of people think he lost. So to me, he's a guy who's got just very lucky throughout his career. Ricardo Ramos knocked him out. Then he lost to Vince Morales. Then he goes on this long, streak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fight win streak. But is it really a win streak? I really don't think so, because some of these fights are very questionable. Now, with the guy who's young, who's powerful, who's as precise as a guy like Sean O'Malley, I honestly don't think that, just like any of these fighters, he's not going to have a close fight with Sean O'Malley. I feel like this is a pure showcase for Sean O'Malley, and here he'll be able to dominate this fight. Sean O'Malley is coming off of a win to Song Yadong, who is a all-around 100,000% better fighter than Amin Zahabi. I honestly think that he will destroy Amin Zahabi. But there, he actually had to deal with more of a power threat, more speed, even wrestling, even a submission threat. Here, Sean O'Malley gets a big step down in competition, fighting a guy with way less experience than him, that is 38 years old, who has shown to be very tough. I 100% feel like Sean O'Malley is going to outstrike him. If Amin Zahabi goes in with a grappling type of game plan here, I feel like that's going to get stuffed with some knees, with some elbows, and some danger and some slicing stuff. Zahabi is going to be forced to keep it up on the feet with Sean O'Malley, where Sean O'Malley is going to pick him apart. So I do like Sean O'Malley a lot in this spot. I'm not at all trying to be biased. I'm just, calling it as it is. Sean O'Malley is just a better overall striker, and Amin Zahabi does not at all have a type of grappling effect that Merab does. So give me Sean O'Malley all day. I really like him in this spot. I like him and Josh Hokett. Both, to me, reliable favorites here on this card. And we're at the co-main event of the evening. This is for the interim heavyweight championship of the world. We have Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane. Now, for this fight, Alex Pereira is a kickboxer, and Cyril Gane is going to be a Muay Thai striker, so both guys are primarily strikers. This will be Alex Pereira's third weight class in the UFC, to where here he'll try to make history and become a 3-time champion. Both fighters come into this fight at the same height. Alex Pereira does have a slight advantage in the reach, and here Alex Pereira is going to be the older fighter by 2 years. Now, this fight overall should be a striker's delight. Both guys primarily are going to want to keep it on the feet. As far as the UFC careers go so far, Cyril Gane has been the one to utilize the grappling a little bit more, averaging a little bit more of a takedown offense. But, of course here, this is going to be a very exciting fight, because we have Alex Pereira, which is going to be the guy who in this fight I feel like will be pressing the pressure forward and be bringing the fight. And we have Cyril Gane as well, who is a precise striker, who likes to pick you apart from the outside, kind of move around. And he does have the ability of being able to do that. He's shown that he can go 5 rounds multiple times. So I don't really go question his ability to be able to go 5 rounds here in this fight. Now, Alex Pereira does have KO power in his hands. Pretty much all of his wins besides 2 are by finish, by knockout. And he's carried that power from the middleweight division up to the light heavyweight division. And now we wonder, now that he comes up to the heavyweight division, will that power carry over here? Will he be able to have the one-shot KO power that he had at the last 2 divisions? That's something that I question coming into this fight, especially against a guy in Cyril Gane who has faced guys like, Derek Lewis, very hard hitter, Francis Ngannou, very hard hitter. And with these guys, Derek Lewis, he did finish Derek Lewis, but with Francis Ngannou, he did end up going 5 rounds with him. So he has shown durability throughout fighting powerful strikers. Now, none of the guys that he's faced, as far as like pressure comes and stuff like that, and the level of kickboxing, are going to be at the level of Alex Pereira. But I will say, he has faced a very good striker in Volkov. The last fight, I don't agree that, he won the fight. Cyril Gane, I don't think that he should have got the decision there. But, I mean, he was able to pull off a very close decision to a distance striker in Volkov. But of course, that is a different stylistic matchup because Alex Pereira is going to push forward. He's going to bring the fight to you. He's going to attack with the leg kicks, the calf kicks. He's going to want to break you down, kind of chop you down like a tree. And he definitely can pull off a late knockout here if he does wear on Cyril Gane. But this is a fight that's dead even. You know, the odds keep flopping. One moment, Pereira's a favorite. And the next moment, Gane's a favorite. So it keeps going back and forth. And I definitely understand because this is a very hard fight to pick. Because if Alex Pereira can pull this off, he will make history and be the first ever three-time champion. So not only is this fight on a historical card, but this is a historical fight overall because if Alex pulls this off, he definitely makes history. And that's something that, you know, I really hate to bet against. But in this fight, I am going to go with Cyril Gane. Now, the reason why I'm going to go with Cyril Gane is just because of the movement. You know, looking at Alex Pereira, he likes to keep kind of a stiff stance in front of you. He likes to stay in front of you. And I feel like Cyril Gane's going to be able to pick him apart and kind of move away from that. Alex Pereira also likes to take shots and kind of roll off of shots and not really defend his head like that. He kind of sticks his head out there to be hit. I mean, there's plenty of sparring sessions I've seen, especially with a guy like Talison Teixeira, you know, messing around with a guy like that in sparring. I mean, Talison Teixeira is pretty much piecing him up in sparring. And I know it's just sparring and it doesn't really count for the real fight. But those are just things that carry on to the fights if those are habits that I see in the sparring matches that I don't really like seeing coming into a fight like this, coming against another striker who is going to be moving around and trying to pick you apart. Alex Pereira just doesn't really move too much, really doesn't have too much head movement. He's been able to walk through the punches of fighters at middleweight and light heavyweight. Of course, at middleweight, he got caught by Izzy, and that was because he was having a really, you know, tough weight cut. I can definitely agree on that. But overall, if we are talking about durability, of course, we do have to give it to the side of Cyril Gane. Not only has he, you know, faced the heavier hitters, but he's never been knocked out in his whole career. So in this fight, I definitely can see a later stage Pereira knockout. That's definitely live in this fight. Although Cyril Gane's never been knocked out, you know, there is a first time for everything. But if it does go to decision, I do like the chances more of Gane pulling off a decision. Just being able to land more strikes on Pereira and kind of move around more. Both these guys do put out about the same amount of output. So, you know, they're pretty even there. But when it comes down to the strikes that are absorbed, you know, Cyril Gane does absorb less strikes. Of course, he's faced guys that are slower, who throw less punches throughout the fight. You know, that's something that's very true when it comes down to that. But throughout his career, you know, he really has been known to really stay out of danger and not take too much damage. He knows how to play it safe whenever things get pretty tough in there. I feel like he'll have enough defense to stay out of the danger of Alex Pereira. And I feel like here he can even utilize a takedown or a trip to slow down Pereira, kind of catch him off guard. So for right now, early in the week, I am going with Cyril Gane. I'm going to do more research here on this fight throughout the week. This is a fight that I'm very torn on, and I really want to pick Alex Pereira here. But we're going to go ahead and take Cyril Gane for the pick here. I do like him to win by a decision. I can definitely see that possibly happening here. I'll take a look at that, but this is a fight that I can definitely pick flip on. All right, now we have the main event of the evening. It's Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. Before I go ahead and break this down, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much for listening to my channel and subscribing. And we're going to go ahead and break this down. But before we do, I actually do have a video that kind of breaks it down for me. This is kind of the same thing that I was thinking when it came down to the breakdown of the fight. But I'm going to let Ilia Topuria say it himself.
And what Charles has and Justin doesn't is that he's very dangerous in the ground. But with Justin, I'm not gonna have that. Like, even if he's gonna try to take me down, like I don't have any pressure, because even if he's able to take me down, which I see it impossible, what he's gonna do in the ground? Like, hold me for how long? What he's gonna do? So that's why I see this fight short. I think I'm gonna. I don't think. I know that if for a fact that if he's gonna try to move forward, I'm gonna knock him out in 2 minutes. I'm too good for him.
So look, when it comes down to this breakdown of this fight, of course, as an American, I would love for Justin Gaethje to come out here and pull off the upset. He'll make history. He'll be, you know, he'll pull off as a very big underdog here in this fight. He'll also become the lightweight champion, and a lot of momentum, a lot of fame, and a lot of things will come on his way. But here I just feel like Ilia Topuria has him covered in all areas. I feel like he's a better overall striker. If it gets down to the ground, I feel like there's not a threat there for Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria can easily get a submission on Justin Gaethje if it gets down there. You guys have to remember, that's the base. That's where he comes from. The striking is something that he's developed and something that he's mastered. The only downfall, I guess you can say, of Ilia Topuria's, when it comes down to his striking, is that he does dip his head a lot, and that can kind of lead to like a head kick or a very strong hook to his head, and we've seen him drop like that before. But he is later on in his career, he's become a very smart fighter. When he gets in there, he studies his opponents. He's very, very smart, has a very high IQ. If it gets down to the ground, there's no threat at all from Justin Gaethje. I don't see him at all being successful there or being able to even stay on top of Ilia Topuria. If he gets a takedown, it's going to be pretty much pointless because that could put him into a submission threat. Unless Justin Gaethje kind of plays the Max Holloway and kind of picks him apart and is able to pick him apart and be durable for 5 rounds and be able to take the shots from Ilia Topuria, I don't see another way of Justin Gaethje being able to get it done. Of course, there's a chance that Justin Gaethje, with his power shots, is able to catch Ilia Topuria and rock him bad, clock him pretty hard. Of course, he can head kick him and drop him and hurt him. It's very possible. This is a fight game, and anything's possible. Justin Gaethje here, of course, will be the taller fighter and also have a slight reach advantage. But Ilia Topuria's striking is just on another level. He has good defense when it comes down to being on the feet. Justin Gaethje is not like a sitting duck, though. He's going to throw punches. He's going to try to knock out Ilia Topuria. He's not coming into this fight scared to sit down and bang. He's not scared at all to lose anything. He's not scared to get knocked out. And that's the thing I love about this fight. Both of these guys are going to bring violence. This isn't going to be a fight that's going to play out 5 rounds where they touch each other up and they just jab. They're not going to do that. These guys are going to crash in the pocket. These guys are going to fight angry. They're going to fight like they have something they have to fight for. And they do, because the belt is on the line. This is a historic event. Justin Gaethje has to represent America here. So there's a lot of pressure on both fighters coming into this fight. This is an event that's outside in the humidity. This will be an amazing thing. It'll be super crazy. Very, very, very crazy if Justin Gaethje gets the upset here, represents America. That would just make the crowd go insane. That would be historical. Winning the lightweight championship here on the United States lawn as an American, being a huge underdog, that's like a fairy tale there. But realistically, when it comes down to the precise striking, the high IQ, the grappling advantage, all those advantages, even the youth, Ilia Topuria is only 29 years old. Justin Gaethje has taken a lot of damage and he's 37 years old. That confidently leads me to picking Ilia Topuria. He knocked out Volk. Volk is a legend. Knocked out Max Holloway, which, that broke my heart because I'm a huge Max Holloway fan. But, then he went out there and he knocked out Charles Oliveira. So, all of the fans have felt it. It's very, very, very defeating whenever Ilia Topuria goes in there with your favorite fighter. In this case, he's the guy representing America and the guy that everybody's rooting for once again. And here, Ilia Topuria is going to spoil the party and get a vicious knockout on Justin Gaethje. So give me Ilia Topuria by knockout, and I think he gets it done early. Because Justin Gaethje isn't afraid at all to engage. I just feel like here, after being a veteran and having as many fights as he has, he's not going to change his style just to fight a different opponent. He's always going to crash in the pocket, be a dangerous fighter, want to get the knockout, want to bring entertainment. Here, he can try to switch up his style and be a distant striker and trying to pick apart Ilia Topuria from the outside. But it's not going to last him long because Ilia Topuria is very good at tracking down fighters, getting them back against the cage, and eventually getting a knockout. Even if you stand in the middle of the octagon with him, he can still catch you. He did that to Charles Oliveira. If you stand in front of Ilia, he will touch your chin and he will hurt you. You can have master durability like Volk, master durability like, Max. You can never be knocked out in your whole career. Ilia Topuria will knock you out. But with a guy like Gaethje that's been knocked out multiple times and will be the one to bring the fight to Ilya Topuria. I mean, Justin Gaethje has been finished 5 times in all 5 of his losses. So here, I do feel very strong about Ilya Topuria being able to get it done, and he can get it done by knockout or even by submission. So Ilya Topuria has to be the pick here. He has to be the bet here if there is any type of bet placed. The only way I see Gaethje winning is if he pulls off a decision. But I mean, Ilya Topuria is not no Paddy Pimlet. Ilya Topuria is on a complete different level, a way higher finish rate, and also he brings way higher threats when it comes down to the ground and also when it's on the feet. Overall, is a very clean striker, very clean grappler, and here he keeps his O. And Ilya Topuria will finish Justin Gaethje at the White House on Sunday night, aka probably Monday morning. So give me Ilya Topuria. I feel like he's a lock on this card. I just don't see Justin Gaethje being able to pull it off here. You know, if you just break it down, Ilya Topuria is just a better all-around fighter. And here in this fight, I feel like he's a lock to get it done. So give me Ilya and let me know what y'all think. Once again, as always, thank you guys for pulling up on me and going over the full card with me. Of course, I'm excited for all 7 of these cards that are going to be on the White House lawn. You know, a lot of rumors saying this card isn't going to go through. A lot of rumors saying there's a lot of restrictions. But, you know, that's just everybody trying to attack the card. I think that, honestly, everything will be okay to go on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a little bit different of a schedule, but, of course, we'll still be there. I'm going to make sure, of course, to drop a couple videos for you guys throughout the week. At the end of the week, you know, as always, we're going to have the weigh-in recap, and we're going to have some parlays and stuff like that. So make sure you guys tune in for that. But, man, I love doing this. I love talking about these fights. I love talking to the people that view my videos. I appreciate everyone who clicked on my video and watched to the end. God bless you all, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Take care.